magic map to guide you. Here is my magical map.
Torn apart, the map is into pieces. Torn apart, I don't know what to do. Two of us are apart, no hope of getting home without the map.
Use the map.
Torn apart, I am a man in pieces. Torn apart, cast from the girl I love by spirits up above. No chance of getting home without the map. Why have I been cast here away from her, the one I love so dear, and for always, until the end of time? I hope she will survive, my love will stay. Torn apart, the map is now divided. Torn apart, I don't know what to do. Two pieces, not just one, no chance of getting home. What have we done?
Chosen by the magic of Eclipse.
It's time to begin, I'm counting in 5, 6, 7, 8. My boot skating baby is driving me crazy. My obsession from a western, a dance floor date, a rodeo, Romeo. I'm a cowboy guy from head to toe. Wanna make you mine, better get in line. 5, 6, 7, 8.
Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir? Voulez-vous coucher avec moi? Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir? Creole lady moonlight.
My boot scooping baby is driving me crazy. My obsession from a western, a dance floor date, a rodeo, Romeo. I'm a cowboy guy from head to toe. Wanna make you mine, better get in line. 5, 6, 7, 8. Now who's gonna call? The GB. Now who's gonna call? WG. We have a record we wanna break out if we get bum rush. That's Wawa West. That's Wawa West. That's Wawa West. That's Wawa West. Wild Wild West. Wild Wild West. Wild Wild West. Yeah.
Eclipse.
Hi, my name's Adrian Alsop. I'm the director and the choreographer for the new production show on board the SUNBIRD, and it's called Eclipse.
Torn apart, the map is into pieces. Torn apart, I don't know what to do. Two of us are apart, no hope of getting home without the map.
Use the map.
Torn apart, I am a man in pieces. Torn apart, cast from the girl I love by spirits up above. No chance of getting home without the map. Why have I been cast here away from her, the one I love so dear, and for always, until the end of time? I hope she will survive, my love will stay. Torn apart, the map is now divided. Torn apart, I don't know what to do. Two pieces, not just one, no chance of getting home. What have we done?
It's a team of people, and it starts off by the team. We do like brainstorming. We'll go into a room and sit down and say, right, what do we want this show to be? What have we got on the ships already? What do you think we could do to make it new? And then we'll come out with a general idea, and then I pick out the idea that I think would work and that I'd really like to choreograph to, and then I'll go away and then I'll start writing the storyline around this idea. You know, and this time the idea was time travel. Someone came up with the idea of time travel, and I thought, yeah, I'd quite like to do that. I didn't, however, though, want to make it, you know, the usual someone jumps into a time machine and it takes them back into time, so I wanted to find a different angle. And the show actually started out being called Ley Lines, where we was going to have ley lines on the stage, and the two leads were going to jump on the ley lines, and where they crossed, it enabled them to go through time and travel back. But through one thing or another, that got changed over the period of writing it, and it ended up being the eclipse of the sun. For the team, for the show team, they rehearse in Brighton. This show, we had to choreograph it in a week, and they did from 9 in the morning till 9 at night, and they get 2 hours off a day for lunch and dinner. The reason why the hours are so long is because when they come on board ship, they have to have learnt so much material so that the passengers don't get any repeat performances at all, so they have to have enough material for usually about 2 weeks, and they only have 4 weeks to learn everything. So when they've got a new show to learn, it's even harder for them, so we have to do it in a week, and that's why the hours are so long. When you're working on a ship, it's not a paying audience, so the passengers can come and go as they please. Now, they might come in to watch the show once it's been on for 20 minutes already. So when you're writing the show, you have to try and find a storyline that is easy enough for a passenger to pick up should they come in halfway through the show and have missed the beginning. Whereas obviously in theatre, you just have the storyline, and if you get in late, then that's your fault because you paid for the ticket. The other differences are you have to consider the amount of space that you've got on the ship. Backstage, it's a very small space. It's literally like a corridor. So if you've got any scenery or you use any props, you have to consider, are we able to store them? If they're on stage and then we bring them off, where do we put them while the show's going on? And then the other one is probably the height of the ceiling, because on the ship, obviously, we've got a deck above us, so the ceiling's quite low, whereas on stage, you've got a vast space. So trying to do lifts and whatever when you're choreographing, you know, there's just certain things that you can't do. Well, I think the singers have got the hardest job because they do have to sing and dance at the same time. And, you know, through these last 3 or 4 years that we've been doing all these new shows, the standard is actually getting higher. So they have a really hard job. The dancers in the team, I don't know, there's no real difference between the dancers on board a ship and there are in the theatre. I think the only difference is that the dancers on the ship, as well as doing the dance shows in the evening, obviously they have to do, you know, their duties in the daytime, and just general, you know, public relations towards the passengers on board. So they're constantly working all the time. That section of the show, the Western Rue section, the idea was that obviously the cast are in 2 different parts, 2 different time zones in 2 different parts of the world. And then I wanted to create the thing where they come back together at the end as the 2 leads come back together and join the map. So I told the musical director that I wanted the music from each side to start playing simultaneously and try and make a sound that used both sides of the music that we was using. And when that first came back, it just wasn't working. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't working. And that piece of music was one of the pieces that went backwards and forwards, you know, 3 or 4 times until we eventually got it right. you know, because there's a team of people, it's not just my decision. You know, there's the producers as well, and then you've got the, you know, the people from Air Tours, and you know, I might like something and they don't, or vice versa. So you have to wait until everyone's in agreement, and you get there eventually. But it's hard. Another piece of music as well was in the Woodstock section, which was Rhythm of Life. I haven't got one. I think I can narrow it down to about 3. The first one is right at the beginning of the show, where when you see the sun and moon coming on across the back, there's clocks on either side, and the clocks say time remaining until the eclipse. And they've managed to do it technically, so every time as the clocks hit 0 seconds, the eclipse has happened at that exact point, which is, there's so much technical stuff gone into creating that and doing that, and you know, so many people have had to sit down and think about how can we do this, because it's all done by computer, and that for me is just amazing. And I don't think that the audience would ever appreciate how much work's gone into that, because when you watch it, it's just, you just see it happen, which is, you know, what you're supposed to do. You just sit back and relax and enjoy it. But that's one thing. Another one, which is just staging wise, is in Woodstock Aquarius, where we have pieces of plastic and then they all come together to create a circle, and it's either a flower or the eclipse, whichever way you want to look at it. And I liked that one. And then choreographically, I think Keys of Life is my favourite. I just like, you know, some of the stuff that the dancers are doing on that. It just seems to have a real energy to it, that section. And it's when you know, all the black dancers over in America were doing this kind of dancing, which was called swing dancing. And then by the 60s, the white Americans had taken it over and turned it into rock and roll.
It's time to begin, I'm counting in 5, 6, 7, 8. My boots scooting baby is driving me crazy. My obsession from a western, a dance floor date. My rodeo Romeo, I'm a cowboy got from head to toe. Wanna make you mine, better get in line. 5, 6, 7, 8.
Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir? Voulez-vous coucher avec moi? Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir? Creole lady moonlight.
My boots scooting baby is driving me crazy. My obsession from a western, my dance floor date. My rodeo Romeo, I'm a cowboy got from head to toe. Wanna make you mine, better get in line. 5, 6, 7, 8. Now who gonna call? The GB.